Hello. Welcome back to Ray's Music Reviews. This isn't really Ray's. We're as a group. We're not going to be known as RMR because that's the name of something else in music. Just Google it. So we're just going to be known as... I don't know.
We Three Kings.
No. No.
We are kings, baby.
No.
Play Motorhead.
The Tastemakers.
King of Kings. Spit water as we just come on.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, we just got a wrestling
on your knees, dog.
Sorry, we just got our wrestling podcast done, so we're kind of...
All right, enough talking about RMR. Now we're talking about GNR.
Segue.
Guns and Roses, Appetite for Destruction. I picked this album because it is one of my dad's favorite albums ever. Kind of like the last one. Not Green.
He has pretty good music taste.
We shall see. This will be up for discussion over the next little while.
I thought for a second Dad was gonna say no. He has pretty good music taste right now.
No.
But let's get into the... Do you have a story, or do you want to get into the questions?
Well, we'll just quickly go through.
Okay, just a quick little story.
Appetite for Destruction has sold 30 million copies. It is considered by many to be one of the great debut albums, hard rock albums of all time. It is a Billboard's best-selling debut album of all time. Rolling Stone listed it the 62nd best album ever in their top 500 albums. It had 5 releases. It's So Easy in June of 87. Welcome to the Jungle in October. Sweet Child in August of 88. Paradise City 88. Night Train 89. It did not chart well for a year before it finally began to chart.
Which is so crazy because you put that album on and the first song is Welcome to the Jungle.
Well, there's a story that goes with that, but we'll get into it as we go through these questions. How did you feel about the opening track?
It's Welcome to the Jungle. I can't go to Giza and review the pyramids. It's incredible. It's a monument.
How are you gonna start off your album by sounding like what? I'm gonna start off this album by sounding like something you've never heard before.
And it's incredible.
Right.
I mean, I have like a connection to this song because I used to go to hockey games all the time, and they played that song every single time.
Yeah, every sporting event, right?
Yeah, and it never fails to get me hyped up. Just hearing the like echo on the first little bit of it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
My blood pressure goes up. I'm like, let's go.
Right.
It's incredible.
It is. Now, the interesting thing about this track is they released it a couple of times, and MTV wouldn't play the video for whatever reason, and their manager, Alan Niven, went to David Geffen, who owned Geffen Records, and says, you've got to get this played. He called MTV, and they said something to the effect of, okay, fine, we'll play it at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. They played it at 5 o'clock in the morning Sunday morning. You got to remember, in Los Angeles, that's people getting home from partying. And what winds up happening is the billboards light up and it starts getting requested. And that's when they finally take off with like the second release in this weird random, we'll play it at 5 a.m. and then it starts getting requested, and next thing you know, it's on the Headbangers Ball, and the next thing you know, it becomes this thing, right?
It's wild.
Yeah, and that's how it winds up taking a year for the thing to really take off. And that's also, though, the story on this is on this record, Axl hitchhikes from Indiana to New York. He's got $10 in his pocket with his buddy. He's like 15, 16 years old. They hitchhike out there. They get out of a car, and the guy yells at him, you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're going to die. And when he moves out to L.A., because at 17, Izzy talks him into moving out, because they had grown up in the same town in Indiana, talks him into moving out to Los Angeles. That becomes where he starts telling the story of moving to L.A. and all that. But the original line was actually heard a couple of years. Or first of all, loading up and moving to L.A. at 17.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say that about every new fact I hear about Axl Rose, though. I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, there's a reason he's crazy. But also, like, the reason he went out there was he was told by a lawyer if he didn't get out of Indiana, he was going to spend his life in jail. Because he had been arrested a lot of times in his hometown for different things. He had a buddy that said he got beat up a lot, but like he would start the fights, but he would get beat up. You know what I mean? But always willing to fight and then continue to get beat up. But also, like, I think they said his girlfriend back then said the first time he got arrested, he's walking down the street, and she said he could look effeminate from behind because he's thin, and he's got long red hair, and the cops were catcalling him, whistling at him because they thought he was a girl. And he turns around and shoots him a bird. He winds up in jail because
he can't do that. He's innocent.
Right. That'll come up later, right? Because they're out to get me, right? That comes up later.
Me.
Yeah. So, but like you said, the vocal before you really even hear anything, where he sounds kind of like this fire alarm on a military base.
Yeah, like a pterodactyl.
That when you realize that's his voice.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then Slash's intro guitars, and then the way Steven swings the drums, it's really good song.
You know Slash's mom dated David Bowie?
When Slash's parents were married, he walked in on David Bowie and his mother. She was a costume designer, a person who designed clothing for stars. The father made album covers and other type of photography and artwork, and he spent time. Slash lived in Stoke, England for a little while before he winds up in LA. But yes, the part of the breaking up process of the parents involved him walking in on his mom.
It's crazy.
With David
Bowie.
With David Bowie. Yeah. Wow. How did we feel about the album Closer?
The album Closer, I don't remember what it is.
Was
actually.
Rocket Queen, I think.
Rocket Queen is the album Closer.
I'm not the world's biggest fan of Rocket Queen. I mean, it's outrageous. I would not have closed the album with any other song. I will say that.
Yeah.
It was it is outrageous.
And it's one of the few times on the record where he alludes to a hopefulness at the end.
Yeah.
You know, I see you standing on your own. I'll be here to the bitter end. Because with Axl, it's not the joyous end, of course. No. It's the bitter end. But, those who leave you strung out far too long, all that. Also, the ending of... Well, Ray, what did you think about the Rocket Queen?
I thought it was everything it needed to be in a closer.
All right. Rocket Queen, it has that funky bass that takes you off to start with. The Rocket Queen is an actual person.
Yes.
She is Barbie Von Grief.
Which is an incredible name.
And
that sounds like a fake Axl Rose name.
And she is actually her face was tattooed on one of Axl's biceps.
Hey.
And Axl's quote there is, "She kept me alive for a little while," because they kind of had a thing where you could say mooched off of strippers, hookers, people, and I don't mean that in a bad way. The whole community was what it was. They were living in a storage shed before they got a record deal where their equipment was, and they would and when he says she kept, it's weird because it's not like she supported me. She kept me alive for a little while. I remember It's So Easy is about...
Oh, yeah, I was going to bring it up. It's So Easy is literally about that period in their lives where it's so easy.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to please me.
Right. But as Slash said, we could get a place to stay with them. We could shower and all clean up at their houses, and we could get free drugs. And then he follows it up with, sometimes we got to eat. But that was the livelihood, like you said. But anyway, the other thing with this is the vocal performances, and Slash's playing is so good on Rocket Queen, but the vocal performances on Rocket Queen,
authentic.
Oh my! And he does that little doo-wop thing at the end. It is just the amount of range he covers over the course of that one
Good
song.
Lord, Axl Rose is a singer and a half.
Yeah.
2 singers.
Absolutely.
2.5.
Absolutely. Okay, now I think
and
maybe
the crazy part about Axl Rose is he is the only thing that makes or breaks. Like, if you don't like his voice, you're not gonna like Guns N' Roses.
How could you not like? I just maybe it's because some of these songs are so iconic to me that I just grew up listening to them. Where it's like I can't imagine a world in which I don't like Axl Rose.
His voice.
Yeah,
his voice.
Okay, well,
right.
personally, yeah.
Right. Well,
Axl
it's funny
voice,
because he is a lightning rod. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you either like the dude or not. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'm familiar with divisive singers.
Right.
Speaking of the question, how do you feel about Axl Rose's vocals?
Incredible, perfect, amazing. Absolutely,
yeah,
it's
for this record.
an instrument of itself.
Yeah, he what's crazy about his? Do you mind if I tell a story about his voice? Okay, he moves out. Like I said, he moves out to L.A. He's a piano player and singing in the Bailey Trio in a church. His father is abusive to the family, and he moves. He's being told by Izzy, who's already moved out to Los Angeles, to come on out and you'll be the piano player in my band. There's no piano in the band. Izzy's lying because he's telling his friends that he's got a buddy that can sing. Axl doesn't know that. Axl hitchhikes out there, gets told you're the singer. But at this point, Axl doesn't sing like he will be known for singing. More like what you hear at the beginning of Patience or the beginning of Don't Cry than what he winds up doing. Izzy hears him singing Nazareth in the shower. And when he gets done, Izzy says, "Can you sing like that all the time?" And Axl says, "Well, I think I can. I mean, I can do it a little. Pretty sure I can, yeah." And so that is when it turns into what you know of him. And Danko Jones saw them early on and said when he heard this album, he thought they had gotten a second lead singer because he said, because all you heard was the really high-pitched scream at that point in time. They were doing crazy covers of like Heartbreak Hotel and stuff like that, along with a couple of the early songs. Jungle wasn't written yet. Sweet Child wasn't written yet. But so then he figures this out. But remember now, Duff McKagan says, when you talk specifically vocals on this album, Duff McKagan says, I don't believe Axl had ever heard himself prior to being in the studio recording this album, because he said we were just turning up when we were live, we were just turning up everything full blast, so he couldn't really hear. He was just trying to sing over all the noise. He said so for the first time he's hearing himself able to sing like this is literally in a studio recording this record, and then they come out of it with this for a record.
Unreal.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Speaking, well, You're Crazy as a track. What was your now I do think maybe because this is a time period when there were two sides to an album, what do you think about the closer of side one?
Which was Paradise City.
Correct.
I think it was a great closer to that part of the album as well.
Right.
Just because he kind of goes from talking about being in the proverbial jungle and it's so easy and I'm partying and the police are out to get me and my friends are addicted to heroin. I'm also addicted to heroin, I'm assuming. To I kind of miss the small town. You know, the grass is greener on the other side. You
know what's funny about that, though? That's funny that you say that, because the song was actually written. They went on a Hell tour, and basically the reason why they call it that, Tracy Guns had quit the band prior to going. Duff had booked a tour to go to Seattle and play clubs up there. He was from Seattle. And Tracy Guns doesn't want to do it. He quits. Tracy Guns is L.A. Guns. He's also the original name of Guns N' Roses, right?
Yes.
And Slash picks it up. They bring in Steven because Tracy takes his drummer with him. They go up there, and the car breaks down before they get out of the state. They still hitchhike up to Seattle. They borrow gear. They do a show up there. They get told that they drank more than they actually brought into the club, so they don't get paid for the show, and they come back. Everything had been terrible. And on the drive back, Axl starts coming up with the lyrics to Paradise City. So the crazy part is Paradise City is this place where we're fighting for every inch and you hustle every day, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Because
it's wild, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And it's the playing on it, the way at the end of this thing, they all solo, and yet it doesn't feel out of place, is crazy. You know what I mean? Okay, what do we think about your favorite guitar solo on the record?
Oh, rough. Good Lord. That's like asking for my favorite child.
Sweet Child of Mine?
It's hard to beat Sweet Child of Mine, but I might just go with Welcome to the Jungle, just because I like it more, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
I would say Slash's playing on this whole record is amazing, but I feel like, and I've told Ray this before, I feel like the Sweet Child of Mine solo is, and if you can't tell, I mark out for this record. But Slash's playing on this song, to me, is maybe the greatest guitar solo of all time, and it has a little bit less to do with the way that particular solo is played and the placement of the song. Because you have a song that tells the story of love. You fall in love. That's the first part of the song. He plays a little bit of a solo in the middle. Funny thing, Axl had bought some old Lynyrd Skynyrd tapes because he wanted to give Sweet Child sort of kind of that feel early on. Okay, and so then there's a little bit of a solo, and then it goes into the second part where he's just saying Sweet Child over and over. And again, that's kind of, we've established that we're in love now. Then comes the real guitar solo. And that starts out the classic part, and then he turns it into straight Cream Eric Clapton. And you can feel the storm clouds rolling in, and you can feel the darkness of it, because the real question, the easy part of relationships is falling in love. The hard part is everything that comes after you establish that. And that's where the way he goes into the evil, maniacal, where do we go? Where do we go? None of that matters.
Where do we go now?
None of that matters if Slash doesn't bring the rain clouds in before.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's why that guitar solo matters so freaking much.
It's not just technically impressive and just really entertaining. It does fit in as a part of the song.
Right. It literally tells the story of love. Right there. You know, and if you can get past where do we go, then you got a chance.
Yes.
But that's where every relationship fails. Is not knowing what to do once you've established you're in love. When real things start happening.
Yeah.
You know, when life happens to you. Okay, what would you rate this album out of 10?
Woof. Good Lord. Like 8, 8.5.
8.5.
I'd kind of feel wrong
Just say it.
not giving this a 10.
That's fair.
Because I literally tried to find flaws, but it was very difficult, and I don't really think I
mean, I just rated on just like pure enjoyment. It's just like, this album is phenomenal and it's better than an absurd amount of albums. Just like 99% of albums. It's better than that. But they're just like some I like more.
Right.
That's purely it.
Right.
I'm bumping up to a 9 actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Dude, I was thinking about how much I love music that's just like where it just lets guitar players especially just like go.
Right.
I love music like that, dude. If your song doesn't have a guitar solo in it, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
If it doesn't have a drum solo or just like any kind of solo in it,
right,
I don't want to hear it.
Right.
all the bass lines are
Bass lines are dope.
so
Unreal.
catchy that you can sing along to them,
Yes.
which is something that Billy Joe Armstrong said that when he was inducting Guns N' Roses into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
He said, your bass line is so good on Sweet Child of Mine, you can sing to it.
You literally can.
Yeah. And he also said that Steven Adler's playing on this record is perfect. And an interesting note to that is that Duff and Izzy were both drummers in bands prior to being in this band as instrument players. And Steven had a little bit of a natural swing with a big drum kit. And so they threw away parts of his drum kit after different sessions that they just they didn't want him to use because we don't want that. We wanted more Rolling Stones, more Aerosmith than what was going on at the time with the Def Leppard huge drum kits, or Queensryche had these huge drum kits, and all that. And so that was interesting because it is perfect in scope. And what did you wind up giving it?
9, 10. Did I give it a 9 or a 10?
You said 10.
Did I say 10?
You said you'd have a hard time giving anything but a 10.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 79 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
But
that's a very specific number, and I do want to ask you why specifically 79.
Because I felt like 80 would be too much.
80 would be too much.
Right.
78 would be too little.
Yeah.
79.
Right.
I got
out
you.
of 10.
All right.
Right.
I guess I'll give it a 9.5.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Because I was not a big fan of one of the tracks.
For example,
Just not it wasn't a bad song. I was just
Anything Goes is what you're talking about. Now, for example, the two what you would call throwaway songs on this, right? Anything Goes and
It's So Crazy? You're
no,
So Crazy?
It's Crazy is not a throwaway track. They actually do It's Crazy. They actually do It's Crazy 3 different ways. They do it this way, which is almost a punk thing. They do it an acoustic version on Lies, and then on the live album they do a mixture of both. And that I actually sent you that mixture of both. So they really like that song.
Think About You, maybe?
Yes, that's a pseudo throwaway, right?
Pseudo throwaway.
Now, first of all, that's my ringtone, but only when my wife calls me.
Yes.
That's her ringtone. And second of all, when you that's an Izzy love song that he brings to the band, right? Slash takes it, says it's cool, he speeds it up, right? The way Axl sings it, it's kind of a love song till it gets to the end, and then it's obsession.
Yes.
Right? When he's screaming, I think about you over and over and over again.
It's like, oh, this is weird.
That's a guy that doesn't need to be around your daughter, right? Because he's hanging out in your driveway. You know, he's a weird. You know what I mean? I mean, you can tell like love has overwhelmed him, and he can't do without this person. And it is
now a problem.
Correct, and it gives it and it's exactly why it's my wife's ringtone.
Exactly.
True love.
There's
a thin line between obsessed and obsessed.
Yes.
Committed and commitment. There's a thin line between those.
Yes.
You know, as in you should be committed or you have commitment.
All right, now we're going
All right, let's wrap up the talk about this record.
Let's go into the verses. We only have 3 verses now since we went on a long thing. Weezer versus Green Day.
Wait, first of all, I could have talked about this record for 6 or 7 hours.
Weezer
so we didn't go
Green
on
Day.
A long thing.
No, this was the
abridged version.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
We actually
buddy.
cut out a lot of this.
Yeah.
We've been here since.
we've been here all day. We just got the good bits through.
We'll be releasing the Snyder cut later.
At least the KP cut.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Weezer versus Green Day. All for Green Day say aye. All for Weezer say aye.
Aye. Now, can I just say that
I thought you were gonna say Green Day.
Can I just say that had you not forced me to listen to Weezer for the first month of this podcast, I would have said Green Day and not had any clue what I was missing with Weezer.
I would. Yeah.
I'm a better person for having done this.
I would agree. I would have said Green Day 2 months ago. Or whatever
I'd say
it was.
Blur too, because I associate Bleezer and Word together.
But basically,
all right. Okay, we've been here all day, fellas.
basically, my reason is, at least when Weezer are bad, at least they go for abysmal. You know.
If Green Day's bad, it's just boring. It's just the same song.
You know.
Also, Blue Album is better than anything Green Day put out.
So is Pinkerton, but
and two, like I can go through Weezer records and know the difference between the songs. It's cool.
Yeah, I know. They have like distinctive songs. I can tell the difference.
That's strange. It's my surprise people since we just.
I can do that with Green Day too, 4 times.
Yeah.
4 albums.
That's it.
This is kind of surprising. This is probably kind of surprising to people saying that we did an entire episode on Green Day. But
dude, Green Day's a Hall of Fame band.
Yeah, Green
you know
Day's
what I
great.
mean? If we're picking on somebody on this show, they're pretty good unless it's, we'll get to them later.
All right. System of a Down. No. But I could write an entire book on why Raditude is the worst thing to happen to, the second worst thing to happen to, the third worst thing to happen to music in the 2000s. But the trilogy is just kind of.
I hate it more than I could probably hate a bad album.
Moving along.
Smashing Pumpkins versus Stone Temple Pilots. All for Smashing Pumpkins, say aye. Dang. All for Stone Temple Pilots, say aye.
I'm gonna say I should have voted for Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay, all for Smashing Pumpkins, say aye.
Aye.
All for Stone Temple Pilots, say aye. Aye. You're sending this one out.
Don't know a whole lot. I've listened to them in passing, but never like an album.
This was a very hard one. All right, let's
agree.
all,
To me, this is the hardest one you've given us so far.
Let's all just agree on that. This is really hard.
Two very good bands from around about the same time periods.
Made two very legendary albums.
Two lightning rod lead singers.
That I like Scott Weiland a little better than Billy Corgan, which might have been my big decision here.
Yes.
And I just...
You might want to ask Slash about Scott Weiland sometime.
What
when
happened?
He's not on record.
What happened?
No,
Oh.
those guys had some issues with him when they were in Velvet Revolver together.
Oh, okay.
But that's a great story, though.
But I think... I just think Scott Weiland is a better frontman.
Billy is a sound.
Billy's...
You know what I mean? Like his sound, he's like Axl. Like if somebody tells me I hate Guns N' Roses because I can't stand Axl Rose's voice, I get it. If somebody tells me they can't stand Smashing Pumpkins because of Billy Corgan's voice, I get it. You know what I mean? Like there's certain sounds you may not like. If you don't like Metallica because James Hetfield sounds like the Cowardly Lion, I get it.
But I don't think there's a single person in this universe that does not like Scott Weiland's voice. And I shouldn't have said that because now some dummy in the comment section is going to say... some dummy hipster.
That's fine. You said what you said.
Yeah, but I don't really...
Scott is wonderful at connecting rock music to pop hooks.
Oh.
You know what I mean? He's very good at that. And he did it for... Once you get past that first album, he does it, 2 or 3 times in a row. Purple and...
I think Purple's like one of the great... Definitely top 10 to come out of 1994, and which is saying a lot because that year had a lot of good stuff. Weezer's Blue Album, definitely maybe. Dookie, all there was a lot of good albums to come out.
What a year.
94.
I would say Pumpkins based on, and again, if you ask me this 5 different time periods in my life, I would give you a different answer probably each time because they're so close to me. Not like close to mine. Well, I like them, but it's just to me, there's not much difference between them as far as what I like. But I do think Gish, Siamese Dream, and Melancholy are just a little bit better than the 3 I really, really like from the. But again,
Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah, I'm kind of the.
And Billy to me has continued to put out pretty good music post.
I kind of believe personally that Purple is just a little bit better than...
No argument. Purple's really,
Dream.
really good. If that's the way you swing, man, it's a good spot. All right, no problem with that.
Yeah.
What's next?
Next one, Aerosmith versus AC/DC.
Ooh, I thought the last one was the hardest one you'd ever gave us. Wow.
Let's wait to gather our thoughts.
I can't even think. Like, go ahead.
Did you gather them? Do you think you have a choice?
Go ahead. I mean, I have to pick something.
Just
I'll pick
do it.
something.
All for Aerosmith, say aye. Aye. All for AC/DC, say aye.
Aye.
We're Steven Tyler fans over here.
Dude, I consider Aerosmith the greatest American band ever.
AC/DC's from
I
England, though.
freaking love. No, they're Australian.
That was it.
But Brian, the second lead singer is British, I think. But go ahead and tell me why Aerosmith.
But I get it. I like AC/DC, but I'm gonna say something.
Go ahead.
AC/DC are the greatest one-trick pony in rock music history.
Okay.
And that's probably the best one trick that rock music ever gave us. But I think Aerosmith were a little bit more.
I feel like you just demoted Motorhead, and that's not fair. Because Motorhead's the greatest one-trick pony that ever lived.
I listened to some more of their music recently, and I was like, wow, it's really all like this, huh? I was like, this is great, but it's all like this, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
I complained about it with Green Day. Listen to the Motorhead album. You know what I mean?
That'll bring you to your knees, dog.
Right. He wrote. Go ahead. No, okay, you're saying yes. Aerosmith has a lot more diversity in what they do.
Yeah, I'm just more for the diversity.
They're
the greatness with Get a Grip and the self-titled are very different.
Oh well, if you take I remember there's a story where Steven Tyler's they're all living in a flat and Tyler's on the piano every night banging on trying to figure out how to write Dream On, and Joe Perry's telling them to go to bed, and he's like, this is the one, dude, this is the one that's going to make us. Well, Dream On is the one.
Dream On is the one.
Dream On winds up taking them to that point, but when you listen to Dream On and then you listen to Toys in the Attic, when you're talking about these two bands, Toys in the Attic is as good as anything that's ever been done. Rocks is the album that inspires Slash. The second career they had with Permanent Vacation and Get a Grip and Pump, the commercial success they gave you there, you can't really, that can't be duplicated. What they've done, you know what I mean? The cleaning up of their sound, like part of what supposedly Appetite rebels against is the cleanness of a Permanent Vacation and a Pump. But by the same token, the album can't get made if Joe Perry doesn't inspire Slash and they don't all listen to all that early stuff, along with though the AC/DC version of this. If you got my reasoning for AC/DC would have almost nothing to do with the band post.
Oh, and I get it. AC/DC is definitely top 5 greatest live acts.
Well, no, what I'm saying
top
is
5.
What I'm
top
saying
2 greatest
is,
one-trick ponies. And that sounds like I'm knocking them, but there's got to be a reason that.
But what I'm saying is, if you go back and what happened to me with AC/DC, and why I would have answered this totally differently prior to a couple years ago when I was going to see Axl was going to front AC/DC for a little bit, and I'd heard he had been adding Bon Scott tunes in, and so I went back and listened to the entire catalog from front to back because Brian Johnson's my AC/DC singer, not Bon, just due to when I was born. And so Back in Black is when I really started getting into him, one of the great selling albums. But that's a different version. The band prior to that had a lot more blues involved in it. Bon was a different animal, and that is why I would go that way, even though there isn't the variety that you're talking about with Aerosmith. I think if you go and listen to those records in their entirety, you will understand the blues connection more than you get in the post Bon Scott era. Okay, what's your next one?
We have a next one?
You want to do one more?
Sure. Red Hot Chili Peppers versus Jane's Addiction.
RHCP. I'm going to sit this one out to you.
I
don't know if I've ever heard a Jane's Addiction song.
Really? Dude, you should listen to Jane's Addiction.
Right up my alley?
Those first 2 albums.
Well, it's
good.
It's a unique version of rock. It's interesting that Appetite's the record we're talking about here, because in Los Angeles at the same time hair metal is reigning supreme, Jane's Addiction and Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fishbone, Guns N' Roses are also coming out of that same city. And Jane's Addiction is a rock band that is unique and without the glamorous stuff, but they are rock stars. And when you go listen to those old Jane's Addiction records, you're going to fall in love with them, dude. Perry Farrell's going to be right down your alley. I promise you. Dave Navarro is a freaking rock star, dude.
Is it Nothing Shocking and Ritual de la Habitual?
Just those two. Just listen to those two, man, and fall in love.
For some reason, I thought they were like a early 2000s band. Is there some other band named Jane something? Oh, I'm thinking of Diary of Jane by, oh my God.
Diary of Jane. There is a L.A. Gun song.
Breaking Benjamin. That was it.
Breaking Benjamin also. Yes, absolutely.
This might be the most embarrassing moment that you will be.
Let's vote.
Get on the.
Interesting, because I don't care at all. If this is my most embarrassing moment,
I'm doing so good. What you got? Who you voting for?
All right. All for Jane's Addiction, say aye. Oof. All for.
Damn, y'all give me that glowing recommendation.
I love Jane's Addiction.
I love Jane's Addiction, dude.
Stone-faced.
I love all for Red Hot Chili Peppers, say aye. Aye. Those first two records are genuinely some of the best underground grunge by Jane's Addiction. Are some of the genuinely the best underground grunge that you can dig up. But
I love stuff that's underground.
After the indie stuff, dude.
Like I'm a necromancer. Anyways.
Woo! Okay, to me it's just volume.
Dude.
Jane's has some very good stuff. They have
it's the same. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same reason I picked Red Hot Chili Peppers over Primus and Faith No More. They have survived through so many generations.
I think
from the 80s to now, they're still making hits.
There's the staying power is
I think too, they have been able to, instead of what the trends are influencing them, they influence the trends. Even if I didn't like the direction the Chili Peppers were going in, that was what wound up being popular on the radio for the next year. Whatever they released, people copied it. They didn't never copy anybody else. And I give them credit. I think there's a whole podcast to be done on them.
I even think that more underrated records like One Hot Minute or
I love One Hot Minute.
Dude, One Hot Minute's really good. And
Californication is awesome.
Californication's awesome. By the way,
I don't even mind Stadium Arcadia.
It's a double album. It's kind of.
But I don't even consider myself a Chili Peppers fan. You know what I mean? But dude,
by the way,
the volume of work.
Even though their last two records weren't, they were all right. But dude, there's so much from then to the 80s. It's just there is so much.
Go back and listen to What Hits. What Hits is the greatest hits compilation, which is prior to Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Dude, they got stuff like Johnny Johnny Way Up High, Kick the Hole Right in the Sky, Johnny, and Magic Johnson. All that stuff, just banging songs after banging songs.
Dude, I even liked them when they were that kind of ferocious, crazy underground.
And if you think you're getting out of here without me singing to you, you're crazy.
It's a staple.
Before.
Okay, now what's the next one?
The next one, System. All right, we're on a quest to find a single band that Dad will pick over Creed. Over System of a Down.
Okay, so what you got? Who's next?
System of a Down versus Creed.
Creed.
No.
Creed.
System of a Down sucks.
Hey, Mike. I think Mike's calling you.
I remember. That's for you, Mike.
You talking.
I'll tell you, it's funny, man.
It's like
you heard
it's like
a weird story about Creed, right? This guy that I really respect his musical taste worked with me in the kitchen years ago, and a song by Creed came on, and he was singing it, and I won't tell his name or anything, but I said, dude, I thought you kind of rocked out a little, because he liked punk and he liked thrash and all that. I said, I thought you rocked out a little more than that. And he said, look, man, I just got out of jail. I said, what's that got to do with anything? He goes, well, dude singing about a place with golden streets when you're sitting in jail sounds pretty dang good.
Creed are only good from
Touche.
the perspective of prison.
Yeah, I think that's the message I took from it, was that Creed's only good if you're in
all
prison.
you're getting is TK 101 in that particular jail cell, right?
Only criminals like Creed.
No. Well,
just joking. If you like Creed,
so we're wrapping this thing.
We're wrapping it up.
Yourself. We're wrapping it up. For Dad.
KP. Jared.
Okay.
Jared.
For Jared.
I don't remember if I had a name on this
Rush
one.
Jared.
Jammin' Jared.
Jammin' Jared.
Yes. Yes.
Let's go.
For you, Ray. For Mike.
Me,
for Mike in Absentia.
For Mike, I think he's still calling.
Yeah.
I heard you talking.
But goodbye. We'll
Go
see
home,
you
Production.
next
Copyright
time.
2020.
Go home.
Go. See you next time. Leave.